Thanks for staying with us. All right, so we're going to start with the nation. Joint CBN SEC NDIC team to verify new capital base. $6 billion debts may affect petrol supply, says NNPCL. Discos turned down 1,400 megawatts wheeled in by the Gencos. And Zenith Bank grosses 2.1 trillion in the first half of the recap. Stories in the, I know there's an inside story.
Yes,
somewhere.
yeah, I took one of the inside stories. 121,000 farmers get support. So no fewer than 121,000 smallholder farmers have benefited from the federal government's International Fund for Agricultural Development's IFAD, supported value chain development program for rice and cassava in Nigeria. So the national program coordinator of FG IFAD VCDP, Dr. Fatima Aliyu, stated this during a supervision visit to Lafia, Nasarawa State. And he said that the program aimed at increasing rural household incomes and food security was being implemented in 63 local government areas across 9 states, with focus on rice and cassava on the value chain. As she said, 135,000 farmers were expected to be supported before the program winds up. She listed the states at Anambra, Benue, Ebonyi, Ogun, Niger, Taraba, Kogi, Nasarawa, and Enugu. Now, the National Program Coordinator explained that the project encompassed production, processing and marketing of rice and cassava on a sustainable basis. So the implementation in the benefiting states is geared towards transforming the lives of smallholder farmers by creating job opportunities for women and youths, and which will also increase their income in their rural household at the end of the day. So he said that the impact of the program in Nasarawa State already was visible and encouraging, giving testimonies of, the benefits some of the farmers are already getting. So this is a good one. Congratulations to everyone.
Fantastic. Go ahead. NNPC, go ahead, please.
So according to the
I don't tire for NNPC matter. I intentionally choose not to read NNPC. I'm just tired. What's the paper saying?
Corporate Communications Officer of the NNPC, Olufemi Soneye, in replying Reuters news on their reports that the federal government or the NNPC owes petroleum importers about $6 billion, and they reported it along with the $925 million paid, given to the NNPC by the Afri-Exim Bank as part of a syndicated 3.3 billion crude oil-backed prepayment facility, saying that they would only disburse about $300 million of that amount to suppliers, and so of course suppliers are hesitant about supplying petroleum products for fear of being owed further. He said there's nothing extraordinary about what was being reported. He said it is usually, let me take his words. He said, all trading businesses and transactions often operate on credit with intermittent outstanding balances. Nothing extraordinary in the outstanding financial liabilities. Admitting in that word that what we are solving generally, collectively, is about the $6 billion debt owed by them to petroleum suppliers. The report in the nation also carries about 5 vessels are standing in our ocean with the supply, but they refuse to supply it. NNPC, being the sole importer of petrol, of course, are dilly-dallying with them. And so we see the queues. We are, as an oil giant we are suffering the queue. Mr. Soneye said nothing extraordinary, but you should help us. We cannot suffer for what our mother has suffering to.
Yeah, I have electricity distribution companies, DISCOs. They said the minister says they were unable to take the full power generation in recent period, and this is underlining it's a major challenge in our electricity supply chain. So the Minister of Power said that power generation had peaked at 5,170 megawatts on Friday, but it had to be ramped down by 1,400 megawatts due to inability of DISCOs to pick the supply. So that was interesting. He said this is really regrettable considering that this government is on course to increase generation to 6,000 megawatts by the end of the year. But he was also in China for the China-Africa Cooperation Summit, and he was on tour of the TBEA Southern Power Transmission and Distribution Industry in Beijing. And he said that our government had concluded arrangements to release $800 million for the construction of substations and distribution lines under the Presidential Power Initiative. The substations for Lot 2 and distribution lines for Lot 3 at the cost of 400 million each. So Lot 2 covers Benin, Port Harcourt, Enugu, East Coast franchise areas, while Lot 3 covers Abuja, Kaduna, Jos, Kano, East Coast franchise areas. He said a lot of, other interesting things, but of course, because of time, he talked about renewable energy. He gave a history of, the power we've been generating since 1985. I think I put that down. I thought 1984, he says, we're generating about 2,000 megawatts, and it took us 35 years until 2019 to add another 2,000. But in 1 year, since 2023, we've added 1,000. That people may think is small, but it's quite commendable given how soon they've done
progress.
it. They're looking at the end of the year to ramp it up to 6,000.
That'll be great.
So it will be great. And then talked about renewable energy, all the other sources that will be added as well. Yeah.
All right, so there's a high-level tripartite committee made up of CBN, that's the Central Bank of Nigeria, the SEC, that's Securities and Exchange Commission, and the Nigerian Deposit Insurance Corporation, NDIC. And what they're doing, they're monitoring the financial sector, to scrutinize the new funds being raised by the banks. Many of the banks right now are raising funds from the market. So there's a recapitalization going on. And 3 banks are ready. I think it's GT Bank, Fidelity Bank, and Access Bank. Those 3 banks have concluded, and they've raised about ₦1 trillion so far together. And all the other banks, we know some of the other banks are still trying to raise money from the market. But this tripartite committee will be monitoring what they are raising to ensure that the 5 key parameters are being adhered to. That's a know your customer. They must be able to match a name, BVN, to the money that is coming in. Ensure that it's not from illicit financial flows, anti-money laundering, and ensure it's fit and proper assessment of the major investor. Just making sure that this money is not from drugs and not from illicit activities. Wow. So they are able to monitor and flow. So I'm happy that that's being done, and hopefully that we can now see the bigger banks that emerges from this recapitalization. Moving on quickly now to the Punch. Petrol scarcity set to worsen as NNPCL admits $6 billion debt. I think Nima took that story. Picture story here of our president in Beijing. Wanted ex-beauty queen surrenders to NDLA for drug offense. Zenith Bank posts 2.1 trillion and half-year gross earnings. Hunger protests. Federal government arraigns activists. British ally today. Dangote refinery petrol ready for rollout. I've been hearing this since last year. Thank you. Power generation down by 1,400 megawatts. Nigeria has the second highest rate of food insecurity, says Bill Gates. And Edo governorship poll, Okwebolo woos Obaseki's kinsmen with road projects, and Akpata LP take campaign to grassroots.
Okay, let me
Please, who has Dangote's? We've been hearing it too. Will we not
hear more?
Will we not hear?
Because I want to be.
When they told us it's December, it's be rolling out.
I want to be positive and
yes,
and believe.
Patriotic.
So yeah, the Punch reports that the Dangote refinery is set to roll out its own petrol, its own premium motor spirit, known as our petrol, and according to their source, it will be in the market soon, because right now, Dangote and federal government are ironing out.
Soon is not a date.
It will not be date.
But there are challenges. We've been hearing of it.
Yeah, we know,
but they are in talks now on how to iron it out. Most likely, they are talking about truck supply and all of those logistic details. That's where me, in my office, they are discussing logistic.
Okay.
So CQ. Me, Nima is saying that it's logistic that they are discussing.
Okay.
So
Okay.
they have already finished talk. It's just
Right.
who will carry and come on gears.
Okay.
They are my hope day. So I'm hoping that we'll get the petrol product very soon. And that's all the accounts. It went on how Dangote had been ready in June, and how the federal government had, through the Nigerian midstream and downstream sector, had regulatory authority, had argued on the standard of their products, but now they're ironing out finer.
Okay.
See products.
Let's go on a short break. We'll be right back. Finer.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.